What I'm going to share with you in this video is going to help you stop moving in circles in your coaching business. So a lot of coaches treat their businesses like a side hustle, and they don't pay as much attention as possible to it. They just do the bare minimum, and because that works, and they have other forms of leverage in the business because maybe they have like content in place and all these other elements that make it so they can still sell their programs. They just treat the business like a side business. And when you start treating your business like an actual business, you can start experiencing some true growth and transformation in the business, and you can get to the results that you want to get to a lot quicker. So the concept I'm going to share with you in this video is going to help you stop moving in circles inside of your coaching business and be able to spot exactly what needs to happen for you to get to the next level, for you to identify what really needs to happen for you to scale the business. And let's just get into it. If you're not familiar with me, my name is OP. I run a marketing company for coaches and online creators, and we help them sign more of their dream clients, and we help them scale using virtual events. We've generated millions of dollars for these coaches, and we've been able to help them sign thousands of clients for their online education business. So let's just get into it. So if you think of a coaching business like a system, and a system basically has inputs, it has like processes, and it also has outputs, then it has the environment, and it has feedback. And for a coaching business, the inputs is your content, your ad spend, cold outreach, whatever you do to get your program in front. That's literally what your inputs is in the coaching business. And then your output is the clients that you sign. The process is the process that you use to convert these people into paid customers. Say you have a VSL funnel, you have a virtual event funnel, whatever type of funnel or system you have in place to convert these people into paid customers. That is the process. The environment is the market that you operate in. That is the niche. And then the feedback, which is a very important part of the process, is your metrics and your data. And so many coaches do not pay any form of attention whatsoever to the feedback. And if you do not pay attention to this feedback, there is no way for you to improve the quality of your system, because the system would only improve based on the feedback that you're getting. And then you can make iterations over and over again until you get to the point where, oh, this funnel is actually printing money for me right now. I'm putting in $1 or $1, should I say, and you're getting back $5, $6, $7 every single time you put in $1. So it's very important to pay attention to that feedback section of this. And I say this because very recently we have a client right now that has an evergreen funnel, and she books calls from that evergreen funnel. And this client simultaneously also has a challenge funnel. So the client was feeling like she wasn't getting as much booked calls as she wanted from the evergreen funnel, and she immediately suggested to us that she feels like she needs to create a new webinar. And you can imagine how much time it actually takes to create a new webinar. So literally what we did was we looked at the numbers over the last 1,000 people who have opted into that webinar, and from looking at those metrics, we were able to identify the fact that we are getting a good cost per booked call. And as a result of that, we did not make any changes to the webinar itself. We just scaled the volume, scaled the inputs, and now this client has closed about 6 or 7 spots in a 7.5K program. And this is just the 14th of, like, us half of the month. And usually this is what she used to do every single month before in total. This is 14th of February, and she has closed about 7 spots already, which is our monthly total before. Just because we could look at the metrics, could identify where there might be a bottleneck. We saw that there was no bottleneck in this system, and then we also now use the data that we have to increase the ad spend, and now we are booking more calls than ever, and then the client is closing these deals and is working really well for this client. Another thing you need to understand as well when it comes to using these feedback segments to improve the quality of the business is what I call primary metrics. So I got this from Charlie Morgan, and primary metrics are the metrics that you start taking an action for. So let's say you have a book a call funnel. Your primary metric in this case, yes, is the sale, but the sale is like a different system on its own. But your primary metric is this is your appointment booking rates. If you have like a VSL funnel, like how many people actually book their appointments, that is your primary metric. That's what every other thing that you're doing should be optimized to solving or to helping. So if you have a $50 or $60 cost per lead and your primary metric is still in KPI, you do not mess with that system, because that's still the system that works. You basically leave everything as is, as long as your primary metric is still in KPI. And this will save you so much time. You don't have to spend all all this time just trying to tweak your funnel, trying to make all these changes and so on and so forth. Because if you understand like these concepts I'm going to share with you in this video and the ones I've shared with you so far, because there's only a few things you need to do to have a business that actually works. And if you can just identify what that primary metric is, and that primary metric is in KPI, you don't need to spend all this extra time trying to optimize different parts of the funnel, because you don't actually have to do that. And for this client I was talking about earlier, when we launched ads and started to scale ads for the evergreen funnel, we had some ads that were running that had a higher cost per lead than what we are typically used to, and we did not turn off those ads because those ads had lower cost per booked call. So now if we're looking at the cost per lead in isolation, we would have turned off those ads, and that would have been a disaster for that client because those ads would have led to more calls for us. But we were tracking the metrics like meticulously every single day, and we realized although these particular ads have a higher cost per lead than some other ads, their cost per call is a lot lower than these other ads. And for that reason, we left them turned on, and this client is booking an insane number of calls right now. I even had someone DM me one time telling me, he would like to explore using a virtual event for one of his clients. And then I asked him what they were doing right now. He told me they were doing a VSL funnel. And then I asked him to share me the stats on the VSL funnel. They've booked 4 calls so far, and I was surprised to see that it was trying to change the funnel structure. So again, imagine how much time it would take that person to build out a new funnel. But if you understood that, first off, the cost per booked call in this case was less than $200, which is ideally where you want to be if you have like a coaching program. You want to have a cost per booked call of less than $200. In some niches, it might be more, but you need to know what works for your niche. But we found that less than $200 is the sweet spot to be. This person had a $150 cost per booked call. They booked 4 calls so far and they've closed 0. And because of that, it felt like, they were not making any money right now, and they wanted to change the funnel completely. So now think of how much time it would take to build out an entire webinar funnel system, as opposed to just looking at the metrics, seeing that the cost per booked call is still in KPI, and just letting more volume go through the system and trying to close those deals that are coming in. This is why this type of thing is actually very, very important, and why you should pay attention to the metrics and how to properly understand how to study metrics. Another thing that I feel like a lot of people do not understand is data validity. You need to allow volume go through a system before you can decide whether or not action needs to be taken on that metric. So this example I was sharing with you earlier, like the client had only taken 4 calls and it was ready to make changes to the system, when ideally you should wait for at least 30 plus calls before you make any changes to any system, because closing clients, signing deals is a very complex system. It is not linear. Let's say you have a 50% close rate, for example. You're not going to always sell one and then not sell one. It's not going to be linear, like step by step by step by step like that. You could literally have 0 sales for the first 10 deals and then close 5 sales back to back and still have a 50% close rate. So most people think that this type of things are linear, but they are not actually linear. It's very exponential. So you want to have enough time for your data to be valid and have enough people go through the system before you make any drastic changes to it, because otherwise you would make changes too early. You would commit to doing like these massive projects and just waste your time that won't actually move your business forward, when you could have done something that only takes you about 20 minutes and still get the same outcome. So the goal is not to be the one who like spends the most time tweaking the funnel or spends the most time doing a lot of changes to the business. The goal is to be the one that makes the most money. And if you can make that money with doing a lot less, then you should do that instead of taking on these massive initiatives that don't have any alignments with actually helping you grow your business the fastest. This tracking principle applies on everything. Literally, like runners track their time, swimmers track their time, athletes track everything, regards to how much speed they have, how much agility they have, and so on and so forth. So you want to treat this as just as important as a runner would treat tracking their time. And I don't know if you've heard this saying of like, if you want to lose weight, you just need to get on the scale every single day and you would eventually lose weight. Just because you are tracking the numbers and seeing it for yourself every single time, you are more likely to want to find a solution to solve it. So the simplest thing you can do to actually start to see some growth and direction in your coaching business is tracking your numbers ruthlessly. I won't say like we are the best agency at tracking numbers. We still use like pretty manual processes and so on and so forth, but we do track the most important things, and we leverage the tracking that we do to make the right calls for the clients that we have, and it saves us a lot of time. It makes our clients like a lot of money, and I'm sure if you implement something like this too as well, you would see the results too as well. So you literally want to track your numbers, like your cost per lead, your cost per impression, your cost per 1,000 impressions, your landing page conversion rates, your booking call rates, your show up rate. You want to track every single metric and examine them every single time look at the ones that are very low, that you feel like these metrics are the easiest to double right now. Obsess over solving that particular bottleneck and then reviewing the metrics all over again. If you find that all your metrics are in KPI, just increase the volume, because when you increase the volume, new things will fall out of place and you can focus on fixing those things and then increase the volume again. It's literally a cycle of you fixing the bottlenecks by observing your metrics and increasing the inputs the more and more, because the more the inputs, the more the outputs you would get. The more money you spend on ads, the more sales you would get. But if you don't have a process that is optimized to allow as many people as possible who get into the inputs, get into the outputs, then you're not going to get the kind of results that you want, pretty much. So you want to have as many people as possible pass through the inputs who come out on the other side of the outputs. So, and optimizing your process, obsessing over the metrics over and over again is literally how you achieve that kind of thing. So the last thing that I would say on this is, when you're tracking your metrics, right, you don't want to track things. Say for example, you have a VSL funnel and then someone becomes a lead on Tuesday, but they end up booking a call on Sunday. You don't want to track that booked call for Sunday. You want to track that booked call for Tuesday, because that was when they became a lead into your CRM. And the reason for this is, if you are testing something on your opt-in page side of things, if you record that call for Sunday and you've made a change to your test, you're going to assume that it was the new thing that you did for Sunday that brought in that lead or that brought in that call, when ideally it's supposed to be the one for Tuesday. So you want to track your metrics based on the point of first contact. Someone first became a lead, when someone first became a call, and so on and so forth. So if you have a webinar, for example, and you have a webinar that happens every Wednesday, and you have someone who registered for the Wednesday webinar, but they didn't purchase until 2 weeks down the line, when you're recording that sale, you want to record it for the webinar they opted in for, just so that if you were making any changes to that webinar specifically and you were testing things, your data will be as valid as possible and to be as accurate as possible, because you are tracking back the events that took place, regardless of when they took place. You're tracking them back to the original source of when the person became a lead or for which particular webinar they registered for. So that's also something that is very, very important, and a lot of people mix this up. Let me use like cold outreach as an example. Let's say I send out a cold email on Monday and then someone books a call on Saturday next week. I don't record that call for Saturday. I record it for when I sent out the original email, and that was on Monday. Just cause if I was testing anything on Monday, if I don't track the person for Monday, I won't know if my test that I did on Monday is what brought the sale for me or not. That is another very important point to note. And I believe that brings me to the end of the video. If you found value in this, if you found any of the things I just shared to you so useful, then make sure you like the video and subscribe so you can get more videos like this. If you have any questions, you can leave them for me in the comments. And then if you're a coach, if you're a consultant, and you would like to scale your online education business and sign more of your dream clients, then there's a link in the description that explains what we do in detail. Have a look at that and let's have a conversation if you're interested. All right, guys. Cheers.